Killer is dead.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Killer is Dead, very hard difficulty video walkthrough. This is episode 10, The Carrier of Love. And this is one of the tougher levels on the game, mainly because the boss has this uncanny ability to one-shot you if he lands funny. It also has some kind of obnoxious turret sections which can be really tricky on very hard. And I say this because I had no issue on hard at all. Yeah, on this one, I got my ass kicked quite a lot. So this is one of the more unconventional missions on the train. There's a lot of turret sections, there's a lot of sequences that are interesting and questionable at the same time. You know, you might enjoy them, you might dislike them. But this first sequence here, a lot of guys with guns, a lot of guys with shields. And because it's on very hard, they tank a lot of your hits, they attack you, they do a lot of damage, all that kind of good stuff. And the option here to skip them, I think you might be able to if you just go into the red room and try and kind of progress onwards. But with this being a game where there's generally not that many fights in a level, I try my best to do them all. You know, this is not a Ninja Gaiden 3 where if I could skip every fight on the entire game, I gladly would. This is completely different, and for the most, the combat on this game is one of the better selling points. I just wish it was a little tighter. That's my only real criticism that I've not, you know, voiced, even though I've gone into the nuance and the issues I have with it, but it's just an overall lack of polish. But as you can see right here, there's a lot of guys attacking me, a whole bunch of them attacking me, and it's one of those things where my strategy for play is to just kind of press the attack button and watch everybody else waiting to counter. It's an offensive-defensive position, and on this game the reason why it's difficult to do and it doesn't work so well is because the attacks are so flashy, there's so many particle effects and things happening that it can be quite difficult to see when an enemy is stunned and when an enemy is getting ready to attack you. And there are numerous ways to sort this out. One of them is not be as aggressive, and then that way you can counter a lot easier. But I kind of like the toll on my reflexes when I'm in the zone and I'm, you know, attacking successfully, and then I get those clutch counters, those really well timed moves. Sometimes it works in my favor, sometimes it doesn't. For instance, that fight just then was pretty clean compared to what it could have been, and with the looks of that door opening when everybody was dead, you probably can't skip that fight. So ignore my notion of doing that and just carry on. But in here is a secret Scarlet position. You go behind one of those beds, press the console, and she pops out of the machine. So if you do need to refill on your blood, which I kind of did do, and I completely lost the opportunity there because I skipped it, so that is a mistake on my part. The interesting notion here is, because this is an area where you can exploit the cover, it is an opportunity to try and pop some heads and kill these enemies in a considerably quicker fashion than just the standard combat. But something to be aware of, the enemies are extremely evasive, and so much so on very hard that you can shoot some for quite some time before even registering damage. So if it starts not working, sometimes it's better to, you know, it's better to just change your strategy and do something different rather than just trying to shout the hammer into smacking the nail into the wood. But just keep smashing, keep on headshotting, keep on shooting, all pretty simple stuff. And while Mondo dispatches these dudes, something else to note as well, if you have the counter shot ability where you dodge the laser and the gunfire and you can immediately follow up with a headshot, it works really well in situations such as this. It might be a quicker alternative to what I'm doing here. And anybody who's wondering why don't you just go and fight them, it would be quicker, there is a good reason for that, folks. I was trying to get the headshot achievement, which I do have now, so every little helps. And for the sake of a couple of minutes of me doing this, which is very safe, I'll say, not the most fun to watch, not the most fun to do, but safe, and it will definitely help towards getting those trophies / achievements. But when I finished the guide, and when I was mopping back up doing the AAA ranks, which I've done now, I've got the AAA rank on all the levels, I noticed that I had a DLC pamphlet inside my copy of the game. I assumed for buying it, and I thought they only came with the pre-order, and I didn't pre-order this, I kind of bought it the day it came out. So I've only just noticed that I've got this DLC, and reading it, it didn't really tell me much about what I got. So I put it in the other day, and it unlocked another mission, so an entirely new mission. It unlocked an entirely new girl to seduce in those gigolo missions, and it unlocked a couple of side missions. And when I looked at it, I was like, this is crazy, this is really cool, and it gave me hope that the game might have future DLC, you know, and just bring them out every so often and keep you interested in playing Killer is Dead. Give me a reason to keep the game rather than trade it in for something different like Lost Planet 3, which I'm interested in checking out, and just kind of moving on. So I played the level, and the aesthetic of the level was cool. It was like a castle. It was very Shadows of the Damned. It reminded me a lot of that, but it wasn't that fun. And I kind of put that aside, you know. It's not the best level in the game. You know, it's got a ton of enemies. It kind of just throws a whole bunch of enemies at you instead of designing something interesting to do. And then I got to the boss fight. And the boss fight is a flying gargoyle-type vampire guy who has minions on the ground who are constantly respawning that attack you. And the strategy to beat him is to shoot him with your gun or evade his attacks. The only attacks you can evade and get the counter on are his flying attacks, and in the entire 20-minute fight, I think he did 3. So for the most, he's just spamming his little projectile, which you can't seem to do much countering of, or I didn't. It might have been my error at that moment. So the battle turned into me just shooting him with my gun till I ran out of blood, and then countering the enemies in the room to get blood back to shoot the boss. And it took literally 10 to 15 minutes to take down his first form in the most monotonous and boring boss fight I've played in a long time. The only one that even compares to it on this one is the one on, is it Mission 5 with the 4 ghosts, because that's equally as atrocious and just terrible. And I'm thinking, oh, there's going to be another phase, there's going to be a checkpoint, and hopefully it's going to be something interesting. Well, the second phase was identical to the first phase in every single way. Same enemies chasing me in this room, same attacks by the boss, same shoot him, build your blood up, shoot him again, and it took the exact same length of time. So I literally spent 20 to 30 minutes doing the same thing against a super boring boss. And I mean, don't let me put you off it if you're interested, but I can kind of understand why it wasn't in the game, because it wasn't good, and I really wanted it to be. And for this situation here, folks, if you get on the turret that Brian has made for you, you can kill these enemies quite well and knock them back, but just be warned, if they get close enough to you, they will knock you off the turret, and they make this section a pain in the arse. So my strategy is, if they're too close and you can't get on the turret or they're behind you, just kite them. Kite them to the far end of the train, run all the way back up here, get on the turret, and then you can focus on killing them and killing the spheres. If anyone's curious as to how you damage those points on the other train, you can shoot them with your gun arm, with a muscle back if you want to. It's just not as powerful as this machine, so it's just a little bit of a war of attrition. You know, due to it being on very hard difficulty, it also takes extra damage, because everything on this game, its excuse for difficulty, seems to be, let's make them take 1,000,000 hits. And whereas some encounters that can be fun, this is an instance where I definitely noticed the difficulty, but for all the wrong reasons, because it took forever to do. So just be patient, be on the ball, and make sure you use your blood to execute enemies if they're annoying you, because it's going to really, really help you out. But the DLC it wasn't good, folks. It's the kind of stuff that was taken out for a reason, because it just didn't really add anything or enrich the experience. And I also noticed that the DLC content was 100 kilobytes to download, which tells you immediately that it's already on the disc. So this is content that the developers have locked out so that they can sell it you for an incentive, which is a little bit sad, but it happens. It's just the way the industry is. And then I realised something else as my phone goes off mid-commentary, as it always does, to the ever so celestial and amazing tones of a band called Funeral. But that's a private text, unfortunately. So I also noticed that later on in the game there are references to a vampire. There are references to a character who's a vampire, and it plays into the plot. And when I was playing through the game, I just kind of assumed the person you killed on mission 2 was a vampire. You know, the guy's like, "Oh, darkness is so delicious. I assumed I did every job perfectly." And then you just cut him up in that canned little adrenaline burst moment. I thought he was a vampire. I just assumed, you know, he looks a bit beardy. He's a vampire. But he wasn't. So the game's storyline that's in the final version of the game is referencing cutscenes that were taken out to be made as a pre-order incentive. So there are moments of an albeit extremely confusing, convoluted, and pretty much worthless plot that are buried in something that a percentage of gamers who play aren't even going to understand. And they're just going to chalk it up to, this game is crazy, it's Japanese, it doesn't make any sense at the best of times. But it just left such a sour taste in my mouth. And for anybody who hasn't experienced it, the Gigolo mission is okay, I guess. The lady in it is the vampire from the mission. She's the person who hires you to kill this other person. And she you know, she's an attractive lady. She's got a very man-designed figure, I would say, whereas they generally have quite large hands, quite large feet, but everywhere else is this Amazonian vision of what we believe women should be, I guess. And, you know, she's hot. I seduced her a whole bunch of times to get all the cutscenes and all that stuff, because I'm going to share the Gigolo missions for the people that are curious for what they are. And you can decide then whether you think that they're funny, they're satirical, or if they're just tasteless. You can make that judgment. And, you know, they were okay, I guess. She was fun, she was interesting. And then the side missions were set in perhaps the worst part of the castle, which was this really maze-like dungeon area, which I didn't really enjoy too much. But it's this testament to the lack of consistency in the game. And this is not me saying you'll not have fun with the game. This is me just saying prepared to be annoyed at certain instances where it just... I don't know how it gets made. I really don't. Like, somebody commented today saying, you know, he didn't see what was wrong with the checkpoint on that final level of this game when I put out that silly video showing me beat 3 life bars of a boss only to go back to the very first one when I died. And I'll be the first one to say, in the past, there have been bosses with just as strict checkpoints and bad design. You know, back in the day, that was just the way they thought they made the game harder. But games have changed now, guys. They've actually made the gameplay the challenging part if it's done well, not the checkpoints. Good example, Metal Gear Solid Rising. You know, Ninja Gaidens in certain areas. Like, Metal Gear Rising for me is one of the finest examples of difficulty, because never once on that game in my memory, which, you know, I haven't played it for a while now, so I might be selectively forgetting something, can I honestly say the checkpoint was the reason that I was failing. There might have been a cheap move, there might have been a situation that I thought was, you know, really harsh and really pushed me, but I never feel like I was cheated by the game as far as it should have done a checkpoint here rather than here, or that was too many fights in a row without a checkpoint. And the thing that just tops it off, the cherry on top of the cake that makes that game even more beautiful in my mind, is the fact that when I did fuck up, I pressed start, I pressed restart checkpoint, and within a few seconds, I was back in the game. There was none of this, you know, 5-minute loading screens that a lot of games nowadays seem to be fucking doing, a la Splinter Cell. I don't know why. This game is really guilty for it. Hell, even Remember Me, a game I'm playing right now, has got some pretty abysmal loading. And this is when they're installed, so that comment that person makes is only valid to the old school way of thinking, you know. And this is a new, modern game. And sure, there are eccentric design choices, there's definitely a stylistic feel, but this is not a game that was made 10 years ago. This is 2013, and there are certain standards that you expect. So it just seems really strange that somebody can argue that point when... I've said to the person in response, name a single boss in 2013 that had 3 different life bars, not forms, because forms can be of the same life bar. I'm saying 3 different fights, different life bars, with no checkpoint. And the reason I've asked this person to do this is because I don't think it can be done. Checkpoints have just improved. Game design has improved. It's been less of this bullshit of, here's 20 minutes of error that you've got to replay to do the bit that you actually screwed up on. You know, we've moved away from that, and for the better. And it's just interesting watching people, you know, play play self-righteous martyr kind of thing on a design choice. Like, everybody on the internet seems to be really quick to martyr themselves for a cause that, you know, isn't necessarily being attacked. I can understand it if it's being attacked, but like, some people don't even spot jokes and they rush to defend things. It's very, very strange. It must take a lot of effort, you know, a lot of energy. I don't really understand it personally, but, you know, everybody does what they want to do. It's the Wild West, I guess. But this sequence here is a ton of enemies, especially the big fellas at the back, and you have a turret that has a tendency to overheat. And I experimented here with a few strategies of, do I let the turret overheat and then just jump back on it? Is that quicker? But it turns out there's a certain detection problem on the turret where sometimes you don't get the prompt to jump on it. So sometimes it's faster than letting it cool down. Other times it's not, because Mondo will not get on the turret. But as soon as you get overwhelmed like this, just hop off, make your way to the other side of the carriage. Don't get hit by that, that hurts a lot. Oh, I got hit twice, look at that. It takes off a good 4 to 5 joules, so you can't survive many of those. But now I'm, you know, in a bit of a shit bin. I move over here, smash these boxes to get a little bit of life back, lure some of these guys away. I don't have any blood to execute them, and as it stands, I'm not really looking to counter them because there's a lot of them. And what can happen on this game is when you counter dash somebody, if you don't get the perfect one where it slows down time, another enemy can lock onto you and be doing an attack already and come and clean you up when you land. It happens quite rarely, and it can even happen after a slow motion adrenaline burst. For instance, if an enemy has a combo, which is, you know, a few hits, if you dodge the first one, the second one's still coming, and every so often the game will release you in the shit. And a great example is these red enemies that you see me fighting now, that for some reason didn't want to come in this room. I don't think it's a complete safe area, I just think they couldn't navigate the door, because I think he's a bit of a dumb bastard and he's clipping. Yeah, he's a dumb bastard and he's clipping. But this enemy here, what will happen is if you get him to run at you, and he's actually doing the run animation like that, he'll do that attack. Did you see it? He does like a claw attack, and if you perfectly evade it and you get the adrenaline burst, you'll go into the, you know, Fist of the North Star mode, slice him up all good, and then immediately after, he'll go into his combo that he does, where he does a 3-punch combo that's quite slow and quite spaced apart. And what I found out, sorry about that, folks. You might have noticed that I lost my train of thought for a second there, and the reason was I was trying to make a point while I noticed that the audio is ever so slightly gone out of sync. And looking back just then through the entire bit, for 75% of this clip, the audio is fine, so it's going to be difficult to correct, so I'm going to have to leave that in. So I'm just going to apologise in advance. It's an error that's happening with my HD PVR. I am going to replace it. It's just at this moment in time, you know, money is a precious thing, and when you pay for something that costs as much as these things do, you expect them to fucking work. But back to the topic, anyhow. I noticed this in the DLC because you fight a lot of those red enemies, but one of the good ways to fight that particular breed of wire is to get that perfect evade on that jump attack, and then after you finish slashing it, hold block. If you hold block, you'll never get hit immediately after by the first hit of the combo, and then you can just get ready for the second hit and evade it. Once you've evaded it, you can then reap the rewards of hitting him again, and then you can either evade or you can block again. It's pretty simple stuff. But it's so strange that the PVR does this, because when I use the editing software that's intuitive, it doesn't seem to go out of sync as much. The only problem is it makes recording a ball ache that takes much longer than it should. So it's kind of hell and high water. And the worst part is the people watching suffer, because your experience is lessened. And a lot of people think it's laziness on my part, or it's you know, malicious, when it really isn't. It's just something that can be extremely difficult to spot and extremely difficult to fix, especially when these things are edited as much as they can be. And also when it's not just everything out of sync, certain stuff is fine and then it just suddenly drifts, and there's no indication of how big the drift is, so it's all by ear. And you know, I'm not making excuses here, folks, and you know, don't Don't ever let me make excuses for stuff like that, because it's things I try to keep up on. It's just awkward. Oh, and if you're wondering what happened then, to go into cover here, you have to press stupid buttons. It's like fucking hold left trigger and pushing right analog. It's, you know, it's pat your head and rub your tummy. It's just dumb. So every so often I end up messing it up and I get hit, and it hurts a lot, so you want to be careful. But you don't even have to duck on this section if you're fast enough. You can get through it all if you're both lucky and fast. But just be aware, the dude with the laser to your left, he hits really hard. And if you get lazy and you get shot, he'll do some serious damage. Because I've tried to rush it and been killed by him, of all people. But as soon as you get to the ladder, it goes into a cutscene, and then the next video is going to be the boss fight, which is one of the toughest boss fights on the game, because it can one-shot you, and I don't think the one-shot is fair. But that's just me. So thanks for watching, and you take care now.